I can't think of a worse time to be in a knitting slump than the start of the fall. This is going to be the Marius sweater. I think this will be the perfect autumn sweater in this color and with... Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Oline and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, current projects, finished projects, planned projects, yarn, just anything that pops into my head while we sit here and chat. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me this week. I have searched for this whole day to find a good time to film this because I am home alone this whole week with my son, so I think I found the best time I had available, but we might have some interruptions. I hope we'll be able to keep those to a minimum, but fair warning. But I have a little bit to show you from this last week, not as much as last week, but I have a little bit. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about what I'm wearing. This sweater is really special to me, and I think we're getting the first interruption. As I said, this sweater is really special to me. This was my wedding cast on. I got the yarn for this, I think, in January of this year, and the whole time it was my plan to cast this on my wedding day, and I did that. I did not get to knit much, but I did get to start a little bit on the ribbing, maybe a centimeter or two, and it just is really special because that's the day I started it and I worked on it, I think, the month after that. So this has a lot of memories, and I am really fond of this sweater. I also have this as a match with my son, and it is also just a really great sweater. This is the Celeste sweater by Petiteknit. Here it is. It's not really that exciting when you it's like the yoke is the main thing. I cannot really remember all of the color. I think the main one is the cacao nibs in Pergynt, and then for the rest of the colors I have no idea anymore. It's been quite a few months. I have worn this a lot ever since I finished it, even this summer, but now that we're heading into fall again, I think this is going to be probably my most used sweater. I'm also wearing it today because I hope that we'll have the time after this to go for a little hike in the forest right outside our door, hopefully pick some blueberries. So I'm also wearing this just so I'm ready to go right as I'm done filming, but this is absolutely one of my favorite sweaters. I also know that I did some modifications, but I can no longer remember them. I'm pretty sure I cast on a fewer stitches here, and I think I also borrowed quite a few stitches from the body to add to the sleeves so that it would look like more appropriate. Like they both have the same amount of positive ease, because petite knit sweaters usually have like huge bodies and then really tiny sleeves for me, so I did some modifications to make that work out better, but I can't remember them exactly off the top of my head. But I know that I have a whole vlog dedicated to everything about the Celeste sweater if you're interested to see like more in-depth about the pattern and everything I did. You'll also probably be hear me say the color names then, because I can't remember them now. But that's it for what I'm wearing, and we can head into what I've done this week. I have felt quite a lot this week that I am heading into a little bit of a knitting slump. I don't know if it's a real knitting slump or if it's just that I'm tired of knitting because I've knit so much on all of my scrap projects, but I've been taking kind of a break, just kind of, because I have still been knitting, but it hasn't been that enjoyable. I have felt kind of like I'm forcing myself to do it, and yeah, I'm just not feeling it that much, and that sucks. I can't think of a worse time to be in a knitting slump than the start of the fall. I've been looking forward for this knitting fall for so long, and right now I don't really want to knit at all, but I still have knit a little bit, so I thought I'd show you that. I think I'll start with everything I was already kind of working on last week. So the scrap projects, I'm not going to show you all of the scrap projects. I am now done with the scrap project. I didn't get to every single project, but I got to most of them. I at least got to start most of them. I didn't finish all of the ones I started either, but that I've decided to like close that chapter now, so that's kind of one of my finished projects this week. I'll show you like all of the finished projects because I'm not about to hold up every single one of them. But I still have 3 ongoing ones, and I also have one finished one that I finished since the last podcast. This is the Little Sisters Romper by Petiteknit. This is knit in a yarn I'm not super familiar with. I think it is Primrose yarn, maybe, in some sort of merino yarn. I think it's sport weight. This is the 2 to 4 month size of the Little Sisters Romper. I had no idea what to do with this yarn except for this, because it is a yarn that changes color so much. But I'm happy with my decision to do this Little Sisters Romper because I think it works for this, and a bit of a crazy romper for a baby just kind of works. So I did that. That's my, I think, only finished project, because pretty much right after the last podcast I could just feel all of the air just go out of the balloon. I just after finishing filming that podcast, it was such a chore just to pick up the needles. I had quite a few days where I just knit maybe a couple of stitches here and there, and it's kind of been like that ever since. At least if you compare how much I usually knit and how much I usually want to knit to how it's been now. I still think that it is because I've been knitting so much in the last 2 weeks before this, so I'm just kind of fed up with knitting. So if I give myself a little break, it won't turn into a full-on actual knitting slump. At least that's what I'm hoping. But one finished project. And then I have the 3 ongoing ones from the scraps. This is the Ankers Blouse by Petiteknit. This is in size 0 to 3 months. I think I've done a little bit on the body since the last podcast, and probably not noticeable, but this is quite close to being done if I just actually knit on it, which I hope I will, because I also think part of my lack of interest in knitting now is because I have too many whips, and that's just super overwhelming to me. I can have 100 deadlines and that will still be less overwhelming and stressful to me than having 10 whips. My issue, however, is that often my deadlines all run at the same time, so to meet them all I need to cast them all on at the same time, and that way I end up with 1,000 deadlines and also 1,000 whips at the same time. So that's kind of my issue, but this should meet one of my deadline goals and also help me clear my needles, so hopefully this will be off my needles soon. I also think it's turning out really cute. This is knit in some pink yarn that I don't really know what it is. I can't remember. I had quite a few unknown skeins. I've been gifted quite a few skeins that I have never seen before or after, so I'm glad to have them out of my stash just because they're so unknown to me that they're really hard to work with. I struggle to figure out what to do with them. And then this one is the exact same as last week, the teddy bear sweater with my scraps, with my mohair scraps. Don't know what to do with this. The red is looking a little bit bright. I think I'm going to frog the red and find, hopefully if I have them, some more muted scraps here, even though they won't be in pink hues, but hopefully just muted. And then I thought if I want a pop of color in this baby garment, I could save the pop of color for the ribbing, so that the body is kind of one thing and goes together with more muted colors, and then the ribbing can go together because those are more separated. Or I already have this muted ribbing up here, but like the ribbing that will be more down here with the sleeves and the body, that can be in the bright color. So I'll also get through some of this red. I think that's the way I'm leaning right now for this. But yeah, also would love to get this off my needles, and this should also be a quite quick knit once I figure out what to do with it, because it is on 4mm needles and size 3 to 6 months. I knitted this before and it is usually a really quick knit. And then one of the scrap projects I have actually cast on since last time. This is the chunky rib pants by Jord.clothing. I made another one of these also for the scrap challenge, but I think I'm running into the same problem with both of them, that I just don't have enough yarn to do the full leg length. So now I have to start working on both legs at the same time, and then see how far I get, and then see if I can find a color that goes well with this to use at the bottom of the feet, which makes me a bit less motivated to work on this, since there's going to be a bit more hassle, but it will also be nice to have off the needles. And I also think this is going towards a deadline, a gift deadline. I'm knitting quite a few baby gifts again, so hopefully it will be off my needles soon. I registered all of my whips. I've been kinda slacking when it comes to knit and note too, because I've just been casting on quicker than I've been kind of logging my progress. So I looked through everything yesterday and logged everything into knit and note, and I'm sitting at 11 whips right now, which is too many for my comfort. And not only is it a lot of whips, I have now so many whips that I'm just not getting to them all. So quite a few of my whips are just laying there untouched, unfinished, just nothing, and I don't love that. I'm comfortable with having multiple whips if I can get to them all. If I have one whip that's like transportation whip, if I have one whip that's designated for the evenings, and like a lot of whips, but they have designated spots where I'm working on them. But right now I just have whips, and then I just won't get to any of them because I don't know how I'm going to prioritize my time. So then I'll just won't knit, because the decisions become too overwhelming. So I hope I'll be able to reduce it down to like one baby knit at a time, one selfish knit at a time, one accessory knit at a time, something like that. I think that would be great. I don't think we'll be there by next week's podcast, but maybe that can be the goal for September, to first of all stop setting myself crazy goals because they stress me out, and to by the end of September have a more sustainable number of whips on my needles at a time. I think that should be a good goal for September, because I should be able to finish at least enough of what's on my needles to get down to like 3 or 4 whips, which I think is ideal for me, because I like variety. I just don't want there to be so much variety that I can't pick what I want to work on. But that's everything to do with the scraps. But I have, even though I am struggling a little bit with my motivation, I have also cast on 2 projects this week, partly because I wanted to see if that could kind of save my motivation, because these are projects I've been really excited about, and I am still really excited about these projects, but I think my hands and brain also have just needed a bit of a break from knitting, so it didn't help 100%, but I am still excited for these projects. So first of all, I cast this project on, which doesn't look like anything right now, and probably won't for a while, because this is knit bottom up. I can enjoy a good bottom up project because it starts with the parts I enjoy the most. I'm not the biggest fan of 1x1 ribbing, but it starts with the whole body of Strikkesoffe, which I think is my favorite part to almost any project. So I find that really enjoyable with working bottom up, but it doesn't start looking like a sweater until you're done with the sweater. So that's like the one downside, especially this, that I'm going to have to steek and everything to actually put it together like a sweater. I'm never going to be able to hold this up and have it looking like a sweater, but I'm not going to take the sorrows now. But this is going to be the Marius sweater. I'm finally started. I've finally gotten all of the yarn. I got the last yarn, I can't remember, I think on Monday I got the yarn, the navy blue I needed for my own Marius sweater, but the one I have started on is the Marius sweater for my husband. I thought I'd do the biggest one first, to hopefully help with my motivation, because then once I've done the first one I'll have less than half left, because I'm kind of making these as a pair. I want us both to have a Marius sweater, and I want, my son already has one, so that will be a full family match. So I'm not really done with the Marius sweater until I'm done with both, but making his first will mean that I'm over halfway once I'm done with the first one. So hopefully that will help my motivation. I'm also going to finish knitting both of them before I even start thinking about the steeking, because I need my grandma's help and she would rather do that once instead of doing it twice. But this is how far I've gotten. Now I've done the ribbing. I decided to do Italian cast on, which was a decision. I get why we're only doing Italian cast on when we work top down, because casting on for a neckline is way less work than casting on for the body, but I think I'm going to be happy with that decision once this is done, and I'm already going to put so many hours into this, so spending that extra time to get the Italian cast on, I think that's going to be worth it. And then the ribbing is 7 centimeters, so the whole first skein was just ribbing, and then I've been able to do a second skein to start a little bit on the stockinette. This was really enjoyable. I really enjoy stockinette, and a bit of my issue with knitting lately has also been being overwhelmed, because scrap yarn projects, you have to make so many decisions all of the time, what kind of project you're going to do. You're playing yarn chicken the whole time, so kind of overwhelming all of the time. So changing that out for just some plain old stockinette with a really familiar to me pattern at this point. I haven't done a lot of steeking, but the Marius in itself is really familiar to me, so that has been great. But I can't work on this as my only project because I have other deadlines. So another thing I've been started to work on this week that I've also been really excited about is the tide sweater that I'm test knitting for iKnitKnitwear, and I've actually made a swatch. I never make swatches, but when I test knit I do, because then it's actually important that my gauge is right. When I'm just knitting for myself, I'll just cross my fingers and hope for the best. But I was also really excited to make this swatch because I didn't have the time to cast on, but I did have the time to make a swatch, and I was excited to see how these colors would play together. I have been really in love with this combination ever since I saw it, but as you can see, the color difference it's quite a lot. I think they're like similar in a lot of ways, and I always thought that they would blend good together, but I was also a bit unsure if it would be like this is too vibrant and this is too dark kinda, but I think they melted together really well. And I also hit gauge. This is also washed and blocked, so this is 100%. So hit gauge on this one. Now I just hope that I have the same gauge when I'm actually knitting, because I started knitting. I'm actually done with the first step now. I've cast on and started doing, let me try to show you better. Cast on up here, and then you do this detail in the middle of the back here with knits and purls and a twisted knit stitch in the middle here, and you also do that same thing in the side here, but that's way harder to show because I'm also doing increases there, but you have that same detail there. And then I've also done increases on the knit and purl side for as many times as I'm supposed to do that. So now I think I'm supposed to start knitting just back and forth now to add some length to this panel, and we are at the point of this project where it will be the absolute hardest to show. If I any knitting I'll do now will just make it easier because it will be longer, so it will be a bit easier to show. And then once you get on the shoulders, it really stops rolling this much. So I hope by next week that I will almost be able to like try this on. Maybe not that I've joined in the round, but that I've done enough of the back and front yoke to be able to like try it on over my head. I think this will be the perfect autumn sweater in this color, and with just kind of understated detail here, the yarn, the color, oversized sweater. I am really excited for this, but even though I am really excited, it's been kind of a struggle to knit on it because I have fun when I'm knitting it up, but I put my knitting down so much now. Usually when I knit, I will knit until I can't anymore, until I have to do something else, but now I'm putting down my knitting every 3 seconds because I'm just itching to do something else. So I am going to honor that and try to do a lot of other stuff, and hopefully I'll be itching to come back to my knitting if I just give myself a little break, because I'm excited to spend the fall knitting. So fingers crossed for me and my knitting mojo that comes back. I think that's really it for everything since last time. I don't have that much to update you on since I really haven't been knitting that much. I have made a good amount of progress on this project, but there's not much to say because the amount of progress I made on the Marius too, it's just stockinettes. I made the progress quite quickly, but I haven't been knitting that frequently and for long amounts of time when I have been knitting, so there's just not that much to say. Hopefully next week I will have more to say, more to show, and hopefully be less overwhelmed with my knitting. Hopefully I'll have fewer whips. I think if I can't get through some of the whips by next week, that I'll start frogging some of them, because I don't want to have above 10 whips on my needles. I think 10 whips is my like hard limit, honestly, but I would love to see it closer to 3. I also really hope that during September I'll pick back up my like old forgotten whips that I've had since before the summer. That is also a big goal for this September. So I have 3 goals for September: pick up old whips, stop setting myself ridiculous goals like that are just too much, and also get my whips down to a better number. And during all of that, we also have to remember the slippers. I feel like it's been a really long time since I've had a podcast where I've updated you guys about the slipper Christmas project. That's also because it's been a really long time since I've knit Christmas slippers. I think we're at 29% of the goal right now. And we still have a little bit of time until it's only 100 days left for Christmas. I think we have a bit over a week until we reach that point, but we also definitely need to get back to knitting slippers. So I have a lot of work in front of me, but hopefully taking the time now to not knit, to not pressure myself, will allow me to get back into knitting on a more positive note. And I think I'll also be a quicker knitter if I take a break now, and I'm actually excited to come back to knitting, because I knit so slowly if I don't want to knit, and I still force myself to. But I think that is my cue to be done. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, even though it was really short. Hi.
Se på mig, jag tänkte ville prata.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, even though it was really short. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!